Elena Voss stood at the edge of the great hall, her hands folded tightly in front of her, and listened as the man she had once believed loved her told an entire room of pack elders that she was unfit to speak for the throne. The words landed like a slap. She did not flinch outwardly. She had learned long ago not to flinch in front of Darius Kane, the Alpha King of Blackthorn Peak, because any sign of weakness became something the pack whispered about for weeks. But inside, something old and tired cracked a little further. She was his mate. The moon goddess herself had marked them for each other 3 years earlier, the night of her 20th birthday, when their eyes met across a crowded bonding ceremony, and the whole world seemed to hold its breath. Everyone said it was rare, powerful, a sign that their union would strengthen the kingdom for generations. Instead, it became a cage. Darius never hurt her with his hands. He hurt her with distance, with silence, with the careful, practiced way he introduced her at gatherings as my mate instead of my Luna, as though the second word required something she had not yet earned. He hurt her by spending long nights in council with Seraphina, a warrior from the allied Redwood Pack, discussing strategy and territory lines, while Elena sat alone in rooms too large for one person. She had tried, in the beginning, to be patient. She told herself that kings carried burdens ordinary wolves did not understand. She told herself that his coldness was armor, not truth. She made excuses for him, the way people in love often do, stretching thin reasons over deep wounds, until the fabric could not hold anymore. That night, after the council meeting, Elena walked back to her chambers with her spine straight and her chin high, refusing to let anyone see her cry. But once the door closed behind her, she sank to the floor and let the tears come, hot and furious. She thought of her mother, who had died when Elena was young, and who used to say that a person could love someone and still know when it was time to leave. Elena had never understood that saying until this moment. By midnight, her decision was made. The right to sever a mate bond was ancient and forbidden by most packs, not because it was against the law, but because it was agony. It required standing beneath the full moon and speaking words that unraveled a connection older than memory, older than choice. Wolves who attempted it sometimes collapsed from the pain. Some never fully recovered, but Elena had made up her mind, and once her mind was made up, nothing could shake her. She slipped out of the castle before dawn, taking only her mother's silver pendant and the clothes on her back. She did not leave a note. She did not need to. Darius would understand exactly what had happened the moment his wolf felt the bond snap in half like a bone breaking. 3 years passed. Elena rebuilt herself far from Blackthorn Peak, in a coalition of independent shifters who did not care about titles or bloodlines. They cared about strength, honesty, and hard work, and Elena gave them all three. She trained until her body ached, learning to fight, to heal, to lead. She became someone new, someone who no longer waited in empty rooms for a man too busy to notice her. She told herself she had healed. She told herself the ache in her chest, the one that flared on full moons, was simply a memory fading slowly, the way all memories do. She was wrong, though she would not learn how wrong for a while longer. Back at Blackthorn Peak, Darius Kane was falling apart, though he hid it well enough that most of his pack did not notice at first. His wolf, once disciplined and controlled, grew restless. He snapped at advisors who had served him faithfully for years. He made decisions in council that even Seraphina questioned, decisions that put the kingdom's alliances at risk. He stopped sleeping properly. He stopped, in many ways, being the king his people needed. He told himself it had nothing to do with Elena. He told himself that severing a bond simply ended things cleanly, the way a blade ends a rope. He believed, or tried to believe, that whatever had connected them was gone now, and that meant he was free of its weight. He was wrong too. The truth came crashing down on him during a border skirmish with a rival pack, seeking to test Blackthorn Peak's weakened leadership. Darius fought recklessly that night, throwing himself into danger without the careful strategy that had once made him a respected commander. He took a wound that should have killed him. Later, his beta, a steady and loyal wolf named Corwin, would say that something impossible happened in that moment. Darius's wolf surged with a strength that came from somewhere outside himself. as though some distant, silvery thread had pulled taut and refused to let him die. When Darius woke 3 days later, bandaged and weak, Corwin sat beside his bed with his arms crossed and no patience left for pretending. "You are not healing because of the pack's medicine," Corwin said flatly. "You are healing because some part of you still remembers her. Severing a bond does not erase it, Darius. It only silences it, and your silence has been killing you slowly for 3 years." Darius wanted to argue. He wanted to insist that Elena was in the past, that kings did not chase after mates who had walked away in the middle of the night. But lying there, weak and hollow, he could not find the strength to lie to himself any longer. He had been a fool. He had let fear of appearing weak in front of his council convince him that loving Elena openly would be used against him, that rivals would see a devoted king as an easy target. He had protected his crown and lost the one person who had ever looked at him and seen more than a title. It took him 2 more weeks to gather the courage to leave his kingdom in Corwin's capable hands and travel to the border territory where scouts had confirmed Elena now lived. He found her in a training yard at dusk, sparring with 2 other shifters twice her size, moving with a confidence and skill that stole the breath from his lungs. She was not the quiet, deferential mate he remembered from the castle halls. She was something entirely her own now, sharp and sure, and radiant, in a way that had nothing to do with him. When she noticed him standing at the edge of the yard, her expression did not soften. It hardened. "You have some nerve," she said, walking toward him with her chin lifted, the same way it had been the night she left. 3 years, Darius. Not a word. Not an attempt. And now you show up because what? Your wolf finally noticed I was gone? I deserve every bit of your anger, he said quietly. I am not here to make excuses. I am here because I was wrong. About everything. And I cannot undo the years I wasted. But I am asking for the chance to try. Elena studied him for a long moment, searching his face for the coldness she remembered, the careful distance he always kept. She found something different instead. Exhaustion, regret, a kind of raw honesty she had never seen from him before. Still, she was not the same woman who had once made excuses for him. "No," she said simply, and walked away. He did not chase after her that night, but he did not leave the territory either. He found lodging in the small village nearby, and, the next morning, showed up at the training yard again, not as a king demanding an audience, but as a man asking for work. The coalition leader, a gruff older wolf named Bram, looked him over skeptically. "You're the Alpha King of Blackthorn Peak." "Today I am just Darius," he answered. "I would like to help, if you will have me." Bram put him to work mending fences and hauling supplies, tasks far beneath a king's usual duties. Darius did them without complaint, day after day, and slowly, the villagers stopped looking at him like a curiosity and started treating him like any other member of the coalition. Elena watched from a distance, unwilling to admit how much his persistence affected her. He did not beg, he did not demand her forgiveness. He simply stayed, working, listening, learning the names of the children in the village, helping the elderly shifters carry water, and never once acting as though any of it was beneath him. One evening, nearly a month after his arrival, she found him sitting alone by the training yard fence, watching the sunset. She sat down beside him, close enough to talk but far enough to keep her guard up. "Why are you really here, Darius?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because I finally understand what I threw away. Not just a mate, a partner, someone who could have made me a better king, if I had let her. I was afraid, Elena. Afraid that if I loved you as fiercely as I felt, it would be used against me by wolves who saw affection as weakness. So I built walls instead, and I convinced myself it was strength. It wasn't. It was cowardice. And you paid the price for it." Elena felt her throat tighten, but she did not let the tears fall. "You cannot just say the right words and expect 3 years to disappear." "I don't expect that," he said. "I only hope you'll let me prove, over time, that I've changed. Not because my kingdom is unstable without you, though it is. Not because my wolf aches for the bond we lost, though it does. But because you deserve a life where you are never made to feel invisible again, and I would like the chance to be the one who gives you that, even if it takes years to earn back your trust." She did not answer him that night, but something in his words stayed with her long after he had walked back toward the village. Weeks later, word reached the coalition that a rival alpha named Vaughn had launched an attack on Blackthorn Peak, taking advantage of the kingdom's weakened leadership during Darius's absence. Corwin sent an urgent message asking Darius to return immediately. Darius prepared to leave, fully expecting to fight the battle alone. He did not ask Elena to come with him. He did not want her to feel obligated, not after everything he had already asked of her. "I will not drag you into a fight for a crown that never valued you," he told her before he left. "If Blackthorn Peak falls, it falls. I would rather lose my kingdom than lose the small chance I still have of earning back your respect." Something about the way he said it, without a trace of manipulation, without trying to guilt her into following him, finally broke through the last of her resistance. "I am not doing this because I forgive you," she said, strapping on her weapons. "I am doing this because innocent wolves in your kingdom do not deserve to suffer for your past mistakes. But do not mistake this for anything more than that." He nodded, understanding, and together they rode toward Blackthorn Peak. The battle against Vaughn's forces was fierce, but Elena fought like nothing Darius had ever seen, her skills honed by 3 years of hard training, her instincts sharp and fearless. Fighting beside her, rather than watching her from a distance, Darius finally understood what true partnership could look like. They moved as one unit, anticipating each other's strikes, covering each other's weaknesses, and by the time the sun rose over the battlefield, Vaughn's forces had retreated in defeat. In the aftermath, as the pack began rebuilding what had been damaged, Darius called a council meeting unlike any Blackthorn Peak had seen before. He stood before the elders, the same room where he had once dismissed Elena's voice, and formally proposed changes to the kingdom's ancient laws. No longer would Aluna's opinion be treated as secondary. No longer would a mate bond be spoken of as an inconvenience or a liability. From this day forward, any Luna who chose to return to Blackthorn Peak would rule as an equal partner, with full voice in every decision that shaped the kingdom's future. The elders, seeing the desperation and sincerity in their king's eyes, agreed without hesitation. Elena stood at the back of the hall as the laws were read aloud, feeling the weight of 3 years slowly begin to lift from her shoulders. This was not the same kingdom she had fled. This was not the same man who had once made her feel invisible. When the council meeting ended, Darius approached her, not as a king addressing his subject, but as a man hoping for a second chance. "I am not asking you to forget what happened," he said. "I am asking if you might be willing to build something new, with someone who has finally learned what he almost lost forever." Elena looked at him for a long moment, thinking of the woman she had become, strong and unafraid, and the kingdom that now stood ready to honor her the way it never had before. "I will stay," she said finally, "not as the quiet Luna I once was, as your equal, in every sense of the word. If you can accept that, then perhaps we have something worth rebuilding. That is all I have ever wanted," Darius said, and for the first time in years, he meant every word. Under the light of the next full moon, they performed the ancient rite once more, this time to restore the bond that had been broken. The connection surged back to life between them, stronger and steadier than before, built not on fate alone, but on choice, on change, and on the hard-won understanding that love without respect was never truly love at all. Elena Voss returned to Blackthorn Peak not as a forgotten mate summoned back out of desperation, but as a Luna whose name would be written beside the king's, in the kingdom's founding laws for the very first time in its long history, a symbol that even the deepest wounds could heal into something stronger than before.